times the square root, and then instead of x, I'm writing 24 plus 1 minus 3, and that equals, or negative 23, or at least that's what we're asking, right? Does it equal negative 23? This one gets a little more complicated, so I'm going to show you how to do it on our calculator. Okay, again, just typing it in, 4 times the square root of 24 plus 1, scooch over, minus 3, and press enter. Wait a second. Now this time, when we type that in, our answer actually gives us 17, but we wanted it to equal negative 23. Does 17 equal negative 23? Definitely not. So since 17 does not equal negative 23, that means x equals 24 is actually not a solution. So I'm going to cross it out. And since that was the only solution we had, and it's no longer a solution, that means I'm going to write no solution. Alright, and that would be my answer. Alright, so it's not too bad. It should be similar to a lot of the solving we've done before. This extraneous solution thing is the one little piece to make sure you're doing. Okay. Alright, let's do one more example with the fourth root just to make sure we understand it. Also something that's a little different about number 3. Notice how there are 2 radicals in the equation. Anytime you have 2 radicals, as long as they're the same radical, that's okay. But in order to make it an easier problem for you, make sure you get them on different sides of the equal sign. Because then, in order to get rid of the radical, we're just going to raise both sides to the 4th power, and it'll get rid of both radicals. Right? If you kept them on the same side, it wouldn't be quite as simple. Okay? So since they're on opposite sides, I'm going to put the entire thing in parentheses and raise it to the 4th power on both sides. Okay. Over on the right side, it's nothing too crazy. A 4th power and a 4th root cancel each other out. And so all I'm left with is what's underneath, and that's 6x plus 5. Right. The left side is a little more complicated because you do have to give that 4th exponent to the negative 2 also. Alright, so I'm going to give it to both pieces in here. And negative 2, when I raise it to the 4th, that's like doing negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's going to get me 16. Alright. When I give the 4th root to the x, they just cancel each other out. And so I'm really just left with x. Alright, so right here I should just be left with 16x equals 6x plus 5. And now this should be an easy equation to solve. It's just linear. So I'm going to subtract 6x. Oops. Trying to keep my colors organized. Minus 6x minus 6x. Alright, 16x minus 6x is 10x, so we have 10x equals 5. Be careful. I know a lot of you are going to say, oh sweet, answer's 2. But make sure you're remembering to divide the right way. We're dividing by 10 here. And that means I am going to get a fraction, but an easy fraction, right? 5/10, that's just saying 1/2. Okay. Again, before I circle it, I'm going to check my answer, really get into that habit. It's always good. No matter what you're solving, it's always good to check your answer anyway. In these problems, it's just, a requirement, but it's always good to double check. So if I wanted to check this one, especially since it's a fraction, I'm going to be using my calculator to help me out. Let me scooch it over. Okay, I am going to write it down first, I suppose. So negative 2 times the 4th root of 1/2. Does that equal the 4th root of 6 times 1/2 plus 5? Okay, now this problem I do have to simplify both sides. So I'm going to be typing both sides in and checking if they equal. Alright, so let's do it. Clear that out. So the first one I've got, let's see, negative 2 times the 4th root of 1/2, so negative 2. I don't know if you've ever done a 4th root in the calculator, but the way you do it is if you want it to be a 4th root, I have to type 4 in first, and then I'm going to go back into math. Let me show you the steps here. I'm going to go back to math, and this time instead of the 3rd root option, I want the one right below it where it's an x. That means you're assigning what the root is. Alright, so see how now it says the 4th root. And then I'm going to do 1/2. And I like to put fractions in parentheses just in case. Right. So I get a big decimal, totally fine, as long as the other side has that same decimal. So this is negative 1.68 approximately. And I want to know if that's going to equal, if I type in the other side. So that'd be the fourth root. So again, 4, and then math, and number 5. So the fourth root of 6 times 1/2 plus 5. That's all underneath the radical. And I get positive 1.68. Well, does negative 1.68 equal positive 1.68? No siree. So I'm going to cross that out, and once again, I have an answer of no solution. Okay. Now, when you're doing these problems, a lot of times you will get a solution. So even though like 2 out of 3 here we said no solution, you will get a solution plenty of times, so don't worry if you check and it does work. That should happen a lot of the time. But also don't worry if it doesn't work, because it can happen that there's no solution. Alright, that's it for this first video. Make sure you get a chance to try some of those practice problems on your own. If you have questions, write them down so that you can ask your teacher when you get a chance. Thanks for watching and listening.